Hello, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? I'm guessing you can. Yeah. Just going to play a little bit of this just to keep the stream alive. Interesting tour
in the
we did.
wilds of the West Country. We're actually out at Real World Studio.
Did a tour of our friends who do the Bowie Collective, a big sort of Bowie tribute act, and we toured their system.
They've got production
Really interesting setup,
and the reason we're here is because some friends of ours, local Bath musicians of note, are putting together a project which is the David Bowie Collective, or the Bowie Collective. They've got a gig on Saturday where what they do is like a Bowie tribute act, but it's on steroids. The amount of tech that they've gone to the point of recreating all the sounds. They re-record the entire recording so that they can get the sounds exactly right. There's a lot of really interesting technology going on here. Simpty Sync, obviously some backing tracks, the vocal processing, the sound processing, and also some great visual stuff. We're just going to go in and meet Steve, who not only is Mr. Bowie himself in this particular act, but he's also the mastermind behind a lot of the technology behind it. So follow me. How are you doing?
Ah, Nick. How are you?
Not rehearsed at all, that. But speaking of rehearsal, which is a fantastic link, of course, this is the setup for the Bowie Collective.
Yeah.
What, 3 days out from the gig now? 2 days?
Yeah, I think we've got one kind of final run through of the show tonight, and then we've got another day tomorrow, tweaking a few little technicals and ironing out a few little crinkles and just generally improving things.
So what's the lineup? You've got drums, bass, couple of guitars?
Yeah, 2 guitars, drums and bass, and keys, playback.
Yeah.
We've also got a fantastic singer called Joe Nye, who we both know from years back, who's amazing, and a great saxophonist called Ben Waghorn.
I know Ben too.
Yeah.
Old jazzer.
Yeah, and so it's 8 of us.
Right, okay, and it's not just a simple matter of showing up, plugging in, doing this. You know, you're going for the full production. You've got visuals, you've got synced up stuff. You also gone to great lengths to actually recreate the sound of a lot of the original Bowie stuff. And for those of you who perhaps don't know, Steve is a highly accomplished producer and engineer, performer, all of those things. And he is Mr. Bowie as well on the night, with the wig and all of that stuff.
Would you believe
how's
it?
the scale pitch going?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I don't have time to think about that.
Fair enough.
I'm more worried about it falling off.
So, but what you've actually done is recreated the multi-tracks. You started off by just kind of like re-recording the records effectively. And did you do that across all of them or specific tracks? What have you...
It's a mixture. A lot of them we've gone in ourselves, you know, forensically, and done a lot of listening, and particularly on Heroes. We recreated it from the ground up, and we tried really hard to emulate not just to try and make the sound, but actually we tried to emulate the process. So we watched the Tony Visconti documentary very closely, where he was talking about what they did, and we were kind of, you know, just very carefully kind of watching and looking and listening. And so we ended up, you know, plugging a guitar into a synth and dicking around with the filters while the guitar was playing, and just kind of doing a lot of that kind of
forensic. What's that forensic
all that kind of stuff? Well, really trying to the whole point of this show really was to try and do the records justice, because we always thought that even Bowie himself, when he played live, would quite often, he wouldn't appear to go to great lengths to be that concerned about reproducing the actual sounds from the records, and I would always miss that. You know, the records are so great. The work they did in the studio was so groundbreaking, and that process is so part of the final product that we thought we would be the people to please ourselves and try and make the actual live show not only be a good live show, but actually sound like the record.
Right.
And that's the mission.
Well, that sounds like quite challenging. I mean, we're actually here at the sort of the first of the big racks, so maybe if we could come in and have a look. So this is the keyboard station.
Yeah. So this is where our MD Simon Gwilliam lives, and this is his hollowed out piano. So you're getting a privileged view round the back.
So tell me what's going on. See, is that main stage there?
What we've got here is, this is a control laptop. So This laptop is controlling 2 cymatic multi-tracks, which we'll come to in a minute. And then we're looking at 2 computers here, both running main stage. So we've got a backup system.
Oh, so that's remote desktop connections to the...
Yeah, so we've got 2 Mac Minis in the rack, so that's all being addressed. So this computer isn't actually doing too much other than just talking to other stuff, and that's all networked in the back of the racks. So that's how he's talking to playback. That's how he's and also main stage is where he's getting his keyboard sounds from.
So you're just using, what's this, a Roland A88 controller?
Yeah, straight up controller.
And so the show's being run off SMPTE, right? So there's a time code, so that's changing all of the sounds up, so he just needs to hit the right keys at the right time and play well, right?
Well, one of the brilliant things about the U24s, there's 2 of them here.
Oh, they're the Cymatic, right, okay.
Cymatic U24s, utterly brilliant, and I don't think we'd have been able to do this because the price point these come in at is workable for a startup project like ours, you know, and as well as playing 24 tracks of audio, you can also run a MIDI file. So when we build our sessions, what we also do is we build in program changes into a MIDI file, so we send out program changes to change the main stage patches. It also changes all my vocal effects at the right time in the right place, so it saves our front of house man Phil doesn't have to worry about changing all the vocal effects up. That all just happens.
Right.
And actually, as time goes on, we're building up layers. Now we're starting to send MIDI to one of the drum trigger units. So for example, on Sound and Vision, where we've got that amazing eventide pitch dropping
the classic Tony Visconti.
So it means that we can lay some of those sounds back in, and it just, if we can just ping out MIDI and it just does all the program changes, it's just less for the players to think about, and they can look over, check the title comes up, and they're happy, and it's all happening. So
because I mean, ultimately, you know, the purpose of this is to put on a show, isn't it? You know, you've got a lot of people who are coming to kind of essentially see a Bowie tribute, and they want to see a theatrical spectacle as well, right?
Yeah, well, exactly, and we wanted to make it kind of like we wanted to make it as close to a real gig experience. So you know, it is quite rock and roll. The band they're pretty rocking, and yeah, we're trying to make the technology kind of just be part of the show. Yeah. You know, trying to make it non-intrusive in some ways, but of course, because we are running, we've got SMPTE timecode running on one of the tracks of the U24s, which not only doubles as a kind of safety tone. So if the top U track fails, it'll flip over to the bottom U track. So the SMPTE doubles up as a kind of 1K tone.
Oh, what are you using to do the actual failover switch?
Well, it does it. We're using a radial SW8.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so the SMPTE's coming out here on channel 7. So yes, that's just there. 8. So yeah, if for some reason, if I go around, if we're playing back and I go around and just pull the mains from the top U track, the SW8 will flick over and the bottom U track will continue.
Right. Okay.
And so the SMPTE going out to the graphics computers. So we're running a software called Resolume, in which you can load all our clips in.
Because you've got big graphics, and we'll have a look at that in a sec. It's awesome. They've made a mock-up of that as well. So in terms of what's going on the backing tracks, and obviously you've got a full band here, but there are certain things like, you know, that you're not going to be able to recreate live that easily. Yeah. So, you know, what kind of, I guess, certain backing vocal sounds, that sort of thing?
Certain backing vocals, orchestrations, and just kind of just where we've run out of hands, really. Right. You know, and it's just we wanted to make sure that nothing was missing, because I think with those records you just take away one part of the patchwork quilt and it's wrong, you know. So we would rather have it.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. If you're doing an adaptation like Bowie would have done, then because it's completely different, nobody's going to go, oh, where's that little string thing that I missed?
Well, I think that's the thing. It's the same with. I mean, Bowie himself did it, and now in his absence, a lot of his kind of alumni. And a lot of other tributes are running shows as well. But particularly with the guys that used to play with Bowie, they have a certain carte blanche to say, well, we're the guys that played it, so actually we can do what we want because it's our show. So they're kind of allowed to do that. Right. But I think if you're like us and you're attempting to recreate it, I think it's our duty to kind of make sure everything is present and correct.
So in terms of the recording process, you presumably couldn't get hold of all of those sort of classic bits of kit from Hansa and all of that stuff. Did you have to approximate? Would you plug? I mean, how did you recreate that stuff?
I mean, you know, we're heavily dependent on quite a few plugins to get the sounds that we want. So a lot of it. When I'm building the tracks, I use BFD always as my. The first thing I'll do is I'll put the track up. I'll make a tempo map. I'll get a BFD kit up, and I'll make the drum track, and I'll make the tempo map. And a lot of the tempos move incredibly on those records. Yeah. They're all over the place. They don't just sit at one tempo like records do now. So we largely track that. Sometimes we'll flatten it out for the sake of people's sanity, but a lot of the time we track the tempo. So I use a lot of the UAD tape emulation and saturation and EQ plugins, and a lot of SPL transient designer, a lot of Altiverb to create ambience and space, and
they've probably got some Hansa reflections in there, haven't they?
They've got Hansa.
Yeah, they've got Hansa. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's lucky.
Well, I mean, if I was using Mainstage for my vocal effects, I'd have the Hansa impulse responses on there. But I'm using a TC guitar unit for all my vocal effects for this.
So anything else going on in this rack that we should check out before? So you've got failover on computer stuff.
We've got failover on playback. We've got failover on Mainstage. And then down here, this is my vocal rack. So my 58 goes into a Focusrite producer pack, ISA 430, and then I'm adding quite a lot of top end in there, because the thing about Bowie's voice is that he had a huge high frequency content in his voice, and that's a very big part of his sound. So when I'm in the studio, I will quite often use an Avox plugin to add some breath, or I'll use the kind of very top band of an MC404 multiband to put that air in. But of course, when you do that live, you get a ton of S-age. So I've got a double MXR de-esser doing de-essing on de-essing to kind of help that. And that helps put that top air, that kind of part of the part.
Yeah,
of
well, I mean, if
voice.
you're going for the record sound.
That's right, and it's there. So that's largely to do with the vocal there, and then these machines in here. These are two computers, and they're both running Resolume software, chasing timecode, and actually they're playing auto cue movies, so that when...
Is that what's running on these screens?
That's what you can see here, yeah. So what happens is when we're running a tune, we've got lyrics coming up, and we've got bar counts, and we've got arrangement blocks. So when we have guest performers in, and when we have people who aren't familiar with the show stepping in and doing stuff, they can just glance down and just check that, the change is coming up.
Well, it's fair to say, because the thing is, you did one of these shows like 12 months ago, so it's been quite a lot of time in between shows, so you're just sort of creating... I mean, it seems like everything you're doing is designed to make sure the show goes well for the audience.
Well, the last show...
And you're not kind of going, sorry, folks, we just got to reboot the... no such...
Well, exactly. We don't want to do... I mean, the last show we did, we had a different system. We were running multiple Logic setups, and we did have a hiccup. And the hiccup, the master keyboard we were using to change patches. I built a little kind of keyboard Maestro patch, so I had a keyboard, and if I hit the kind of the program buttons on there, it would close down one session, open up another one.
Right.
But the keyboard spontaneously changed patch. And so I was singing a song, looking down at my auto cue, and our auto cues were coming from the Logic Notes windows, right?
Right.
Marker
So you got different.
And all of a sudden, all these windows opened up. So I thought, okay, this is great. So I had a little chat with the audience, and I could see the mouse moving around, and it gradually coming back to life again. So after we did that, we thought, okay,
never again.
Let's not do that again. So that's when we went to the cymatics and decided to build the timecode driven system. So it's touch wood, fairly stable.
One last question about cymatics. So are all of these tracks coming out to front of house individually, or are they submixed in the actual?
No, there's a mixture. So what goes out. What you'll hear from the cymatics out front is an internally mixed balance of some of the sounds.
Right.
And then some of the other stuff is hard out of the radial. So Sympty, the time code, for example, comes hard out. There's a click track which comes out and gets malted here, and some of these malts and goes off to whoever wants clicks in their headphones and monitors and la-di-da. So
the cymatics allow you to do discrete mixes of the tracks, sub-mixes.
Yeah, and actually with the new firmware update, it's much easier now to actually kind of while you're playing back, you can move the faders and mute things and just hit save on the fly. You know, kind of like you would hope you could do. But actually, it's only
playback systems have come a long way. Because I remember
really,
you always
really good.
you have to print everything, so it'd all be Unity, and it's like, well, that needs to be quieter, so therefore you'd have to reprint the thing to the.
Well, that's it. So with Goldfrapp, you'd have the session running on Logic, going through the Jocos, you know, and when you were happy, you could just hit record on the Jocos and play it out.
Yeah.
But then you'd run into kind of Unity
I'm talking
issues
back then.
with
We were
playback.
using
HDR
24s, yeah, which you couldn't even edit. You had to, everything had to be real time. You couldn't bounce stems. Oh, anyway, so let's move on. So so this is the keyboard rack. I mean, this isn't obviously the layout, but this is where. So Gwyll, who's sitting there, gets to hear the front of house. Which
the reason that he's here for the rehearsals is so he can just balance some of the internal stuff on the PA and just make sure that, because we don't want Phil to have a ton of, you know, a different set of faders for every song. You know, we would rather that it's generally working like a rock band, and the extras just kind of come up a couple of channels.
He has to pay attention to the live musicians rather than the playback stuff, right?
That's it.
So we're coming up onto the stage, and this is where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not normally I'm centre stage as you'd expect, but I'm just I'm over in the corner because up till now I've had a laptop here and I've been working on other things. But yeah, my world looks like this.
And you're using TC Electronics to process your vocals?
The G system is just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it's really good, and the brain for the G system's over actually in my vocal rack, but it's connected by a long Ethernet connection. And it's great, so I can just see all my patch changes happening, and if I want to just jump in and just do something and take over, I can do it. And then at the end of each song, it will switch off the effects, go back to a dead dry mic. So when I'm talking to
hello. Who we got? We got Matt. Oh, Matt's looking very you're looking very pixely, Matt.
I'm just switching over to Ethernet.
Ah, that'll be it. We have Mark. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm all right.
Sound like you got a cold.
Yes, I've got a really bad one actually, but apart from that, I'm all right.
Have you got any more level?
Yes, if I do this, I think. Is that better?
Just a bit. Split the difference.
Oh, no, wait. I know what I haven't done, sorry.
Okay.
I haven't loaded
all right.
Gearbox.
There we go.
Does that look a bit better, Nick?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Is the sound okay, mate?
Sounds all right, yeah.
Lovely stuff.
I could see you've got an entire row of unfilled Euro rack up the top there. No,
I know.
behind on the other side. On the other side, look at that.
Has that made a difference?
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the naughty corner.
Okay, sorry, Mark.
Is that better? Should be better now.
Yeah, sounds a bit better. Okay, cool. We got that, and I think we got Jamie Liddell is coming as well. I think he said he was. So he should be.
Yeah, he said he's coming.
Yeah, excellent. All right,
yeah.
Cool. I'm a bit nervous because we've changed one of the video inputs in our. We had an old legacy video capture card that couldn't work at 25 progressive, so I've changed that, which means I've got an analog signal path because I used to go AES into this, and now so I'm hoping it all works. It should do. It's just a bit more. It's a bit more fiddly. So if I go to that'll give us our 4s up. Yeah, cool. Oh, I think that looks all right. Let me just get the.
What camera do you use, Nick?
What for my? I've just got one of our. I'll show you.
It looks really good.
It's just one of our studio cameras, which we're gradually replacing with better quality ones. So
it looks good.
It's one of these.
Okay.
Right, one of those. Just a.
And what's that? Firewire or USB out or something? HDMI?
No, it's HDMI. I mean, we've used these. These have been the stalwart of our system for probably 8 years.
Okay.
When we first started to buy them, they were about 300 quid each because they are the kind of the tail end of the last time they went from when there was prosumer level stuff. So you've got quite a lot of manual settings in these, and it's got a clean HDMI out, which was very rare back in those days. So now we've switched over to GH4s. We've got 3 GH4s now, and we've still got a couple of these. These are fine if the light's good and there's a close-up, but for the real crispy stuff, the GH4s are better. So we use a GH4 for the overhead at 4K so we can zoom in, and we have a GH4 for the wide 2-shot, and then we've got another GH4, which is the other one. So, yeah, we gradually pluck them off eBay when they show up at a decent price and we've got some money. So eventually we'll be all GH4, which means we could be 4K throughout, which is pretty pointless, to be honest. Just because, I mean, this stream's at 720, so it's not exactly high res, but it doesn't need to be anything else for seem to be quite. That's all right. I think it's just the way my full shot is there. Okay, there we go. We got everybody. So we're just waiting for Jamie. I'm having a feeling he may be maybe not realising what the time difference is. That's a possibility. So I'm just going to drop him a line quickly. Have I got him here? It's 3:56 here. Okay. That's all I need to ask. Okay, cool. I was just playing a little bit before the show started. We've just done, well, we shot this in about October last year. Some friends of ours who are part of I might have mentioned it that I went to see the gig, the Bowie Collective, and they do a very high-tech version of a Bowie tribute act where they've got everything to SMPTE with kind of all sorts of visuals and Resolume and stuff. It's really fascinating the way that they've figured out how to do it and set it up quickly, because they said the first gig they did took them 3 days or 6 days to set the place up, but now they can basically do it in 25 minutes with a couple of, if the screens are there, they just a few multi-way connectors and they're off, so it's quite impressive.
Awesome.
And they're very talented blokes and ladies. In fact, it's a really good. Steve Evans, he's done a couple of reviews for us. He did something really. In fact, he's coming in on Friday to shoot something on the new Apollo X, which he's been looking at. So yeah. So I decided to stick with the little Rode pod mic. I quite like because it's actually there we go, Mr. Liddell. There he is.
Sorry about the delay.
That's all right.
You started yet?
We're 2 minutes prior. That
Good, yeah. Keeping you,
keeping us on our toes. Yeah, we like a little bit of that. So, sometimes I do. Right,
hi guys.
So we have a team. Yeah, have you all been together before? I'm not sure if you have or not.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
before.
That's
Okay.
right.
I don't know about Mark.
Jamie?
Not-
No, I
up?
don't think I don't know. I can't remember. I'm getting too old to remember.
Possibly not.
We've been on before,
Okay.
Mark.
Cool. Well, it looks like it's nice and
Yeah,
sunny
you're
where
right,
you are.
man.
Where are you?
Oh yeah, I'm Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. That sounds like a line from a
Santa
Zappa
Fe.
song. Where are you from, Redsina? No, Santa Fe. I can't remember what song that's from, but I do know it's a Zappa line.
Yeah, no, that's right. Is it an acceptable audio quality?
Yeah, it's the room is very woody and kind of has fortitude, so it's good.
Just the room, yeah. It's Adobe. I'm in an Adobe house. Maybe I think it's got good sound. The Adobe. It's every house should be made of Adobe, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Adobe.
Maybe not.
Yeah, well, it's mud, isn't it?
Yeah.
Adobe Hut is a mud hut, I believe,
Yeah.
in the true sense of it.
Nice.
You get it in
Not have,
Mexico and Southern Hemisphere, don't you? So
exactly. Yeah.
okay, right. Let me just check. I may actually have some extra oomph on your voice, because I change the EQ sometimes while I'm. Yeah, there we go. Let's reset that. That's possibly it. It's just putting a bit of extra oomph in it all. Right. Okay. Is everybody ready? I think we could do a show.
Let's do it.
All right. Standing by. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 568, recording today, Wednesday, the 20th of February, 2019. Yes, I've got a new mic. I tried it last week and I actually quite like it. This is the new Rode Pod mic, which is a little smaller, very heavy thing, but it's got quite a bright and present sound for a dynamic mic. So that's what I'm on today, and I think I might stick with that because I do like the sound of it. Yes, I want to say thank you very much to Isotope for bringing us the show prize. This week is going to be RX-7 once again. We'll details on that a little bit later. And also, before we get started, I wanted to mention we've done a deal with Synthplex. Synthplex are the big show that's happening March 28th at in Burbank, LA, at the Marriott Convention Center. If you want to get tickets for that, we got a 20% discount code up until March the 15th. So if you're thinking of going and haven't bought tickets yet, which is synthplex.com, if you use the URL bit.ly/synthplex and enter the code Sonicstate20, I think that's a capital S and no spaces, so Sonicstate20, the number 20, that'll get you 20% off till March the 15th. So do check that out. They've just announced recently, I think there's the banquet on the Saturday night. I don't think you get a discount on the banquet because, I mean, that's fixed costs with dinner and whatnot. I think Thomas Dolby's playing there. They've got a whole bunch of really interesting media composers coming in and talking about kind of synthesis of electronic music in the creative process of writing to picture, all of that stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So save 20% Synthplex with the Sonicstate 20 code. Right, let's get on to the main thing. Let's say hello to everybody. We'll start off with Mr. Jamie Liddell, who is there somewhere in America. I haven't had you on for ages, Jamie. What have you been up to?
Good. Well, the usual, been writing a bunch of stuff, mostly for other people. A lot of LA trips, been busy with the podcast, and, you know, that's been going great. I've got a lot of crazy guests coming up. Just had a new one out very
Leopold
recently.
Ross was your last?
Yes, he's amazing. He's great.
Wow, there's a load of good
he's
stuff
been great
here.
guest. Yeah.
Oh, just lost
Yeah, that's one that for Gaz. Paul Webb from Talk Talk.
Right,
I
nice.
wrote to Gaz about that, actually, because I didn't even know that much about Talk Talk, to my shame. But Paul Webb was on the show and he's amazing. It took him 15 years to do his album.
Oh my
Somehow
God.
it puts everything into kind of an amazing perspective. Just like, you know, we rush around, but it took Paul 15 years and he was happy about it, you know.
That's
the way
a
he
long
wanted to do
time.
it.
Well, that's okay if you can
Yeah.
if you can keep yourself alive in the meantime. That's pretty good.
I was so close to the album. Yeah, no, exactly. No, so you know, just keeping busy, bringing up the 3-year-old and traveling. We're traveling. That's why we're in Santa Fe at the moment. We're doing a little family jaunt.
Nice.
It's pretty adventurous because it's like all snowy and crazy, but still, we are here.
That sounds fun.
Good to be back.
Good to have you. Actually, if we're talking about interesting producers, there was a documentary on Sky Arts, which is a UK channel. I don't know if you get that in the States, and it was all about XTC, and it was absolutely brilliant. And XTC seemed to be a kind of bit of a hidden secret for a lot of people. I mean, they're quite nutty British kind of eccentrics, but their pop music is amazing. I mean, they're so talented and really unusual, but well worth a watch if you're interested in that sort of, you know, rockumentary style thing, which Andrew Partridge was very dismissive of. He goes, "Oh God, I've said something that people always say in rockumentaries. It's all over," you know. But he's a very funny bloke. It's really, really good, really good. So well
cool.
worth checking out. Can't remember what it was called. Anyway, let's also have a hello to Mr. Matthew Hodson, Matt Hodson over there in Brighton, where he's master. He's at the controls of a massive modular system where he's doing his thing as well as working over at BIM, where he's.
I've got no idea how it works.
Yeah.
I just sit in front of it most of the time and pretend I know what it does.
That's often the way, though, isn't it? You're not supposed to let us find out. That's supposed to be your creative secret, isn't it? That's the thing that we all worry about. People are going to find out that we're frauds, right?
Exactly. Actually, I've just been beta testing a module that's not out yet. I've just had to whip it out of the rack. That's why I've got some gaps here because I can't show it on screen. But it's something that does really fancy chord generation and melodic content. It's called the Symphonian, and it's due out pretty soon. There's a few modules, few videos already on YouTube about it from the maker. But it's absolutely fab. For those of you that are into less bleepy bloopy modular synth stuff like me, I'm into more melodic stuff. This is great.
Does polyphony. It's a shocker,
it does
isn't
polyphony.
it?
Yeah. It doesn't make the sound, but it generates the chords and the note content. It's really great. And there'll be some videos coming out for that soon.
Excellent.
It's really good.
Excellent. Well, glad to hear.
Well, all good, thanks.
Oh, good. And we also have Mr. Mark Tinley, who's not looking ill, but he sounds like he's got a really nasty cold. There in Glastonbury, where he
I've
managed
done
the
some
controls
clever
of Sonus
medication.
Magus. Clever medication. Is it all legal? I'm sure.
It is all legal, yeah, including all the hippie stuff like colloidal silver, whatever the hell that is. But my wife told me to go and get it, so I've just drank loads of that. Says it's antibacterial. Hopefully
That
that'll
looks
work.
like it's got a spray on it. Are you sure you're supposed to drink it?
Oh, really? She said drink it. I've drunk it.
No, I've heard that silver's supposed to be very curative, and you're.
I'll tell you what, if I die
die
before the end of the podcast, we'll know what's happened, right?
Oh, please don't.
It's a suppository, isn't it?
It's all right. I don't think I'm going to.
No, I think that's colloidal.
No.
Anyway, well, Mark, how's
So
life?
I'm not in the shop today.
How's life in the shop? You've got a new shop. Have you moved into the new premises
I
yet?
haven't moved to the new shop yet. Life in the shop. I haven't been in the shop all week. It's really distressing. I have actually been really ill. I've got a lung infection, and that means that if I kind of run around trying to do anything, I just run out of breath really quick.
Oh, nasty.
And it's really frustrating because I want to go to the shop and do stuff. Apart from that, yeah, it's very amusing as always, and I've been having loads of fun. I'm not really in retail. I've realised I think I'm in comedy actually, because I was talking to my son about this. My son came in the other day wearing something truly outrageous, which he bought off Amazon, and I looked at him and I went, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And then he said, Dad, can I come in the shop and we'll have a conversation that will go like this? And I got really enthusiastic and we did this whole role play back and forth and we worked out what the script was going to be and everything. And then I thought, hang on, that's what I'm actually up to in that shop. It's got nothing to do with selling people things. I'm just in there to like throw banter back and forth at people. So,
well, that sounds like fun. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is why I don't think it will ever lead to work in the retail sector anywhere else.
Well, as long as you're sure that it's worth having a larger shop, because I mean, but based on those particular criteria, I don't want you to overreach yourself.
Well, the reason I'm doing it is because it has an upstairs and it has a place for an office and a workshop.
Ah, yes, I remember.
And
you
I've been going on about this for about 2 or 3 years, maybe more. I want to start a charity that changes the way that some of the really good musicians in this area receive funding, and I want to create like mentorship schemes and ways that people can get patronage. If I said that right,
like the old days.
Yeah, and then like basically create like a proper charity with a bank account where people who want to support these musicians can put money. And then the upstairs area can have like a showcase area or somewhere I can do an exhibition that list all musicians' work. So downstairs will continue to be a music shop, but upstairs will start that channel thing.
Growing empire. That sounds really interesting. Fantastic.
And then I'm going to do the grown-up thing, which is work out how to employ people, because I'm not very good at that. And I usually end up firing people in really bizarre circumstances. And in fact, we had a new cleaner on Monday who was coming for an interview, and I've managed to fire her before she's even got here. So I really shouldn't be responsible for anybody's employment.
You need an HR officer.
It needs to be that if I'm ill, like I have been this week, that the whole place doesn't just shut down, and that if other people are working there and it has an independent kind of existence.
Yeah,
so
no,
just
well, that's
all being all about me. It would be much better, I think.
I can relate to that concept as a concept. Right, well, let's get on to a few topics and whatnot. This was a bit of a shocker, isn't it? So the good old Teenage Engineering OP1 is back. I don't know if you remember, there was actually an ad a while back where Teenage Engineering sort of showed an eBay post saying, "Look how outrageous the prices that these are going for," and then they've sort of resourced it and are building it. But actually, bizarrely, are charging pretty much the same as that outrageous price was in the ad. So there seems to be a bit of a hoo-ha about this, but they cite the reasons of currency conversion, inflation, sourcing of new components, recoding display, redesigning the mountain. But it's almost double the price. And I know a lot of people swear by the OP1. I don't know. I can't remember, Jamie, if you're an OP1 devotee, but it's hard to remember because there's so many. You're not, are you? And presumably you won't be.
If someone, if one fell into my hands, I would use it. But I've got enough small things that go woo, and not big things that kind of wobble. So it's awesome. I mean, when I've used it, I've thought this is quality, and clearly, that's the thing. You pay for quality, but it does seem a little excessive. I feel people's pain, but
it seems like a badly managed situation, given that they used the outrageous price in a previous ad to say, "Don't worry, it's coming back," but then charged us pretty much the outrageous price. It seems a bit bad.
Seems
PR.
like it can't quite go well. Shame, because it's such an awesome thing.
It is an awesome thing. I don't know, Matt, whether you've done a bit of OP1 action. It's the sort of thing I'd imagine would appeal to you.
Yeah, I've had a play around with it before. I mean, because aesthetically, the design of it looks really great, and the display and what have you. I've had a play around with them, but it's too far removed from my workflow, really. This small device and the menu diving, and it just took me forever just to get something quite basic going. And maybe that's just because there's a bit of a learning curve with it. But sound quality and functionality is great. It's just absolutely packed with all sorts of stuff, effects, sequences, oscillators and what have you. But it's too removed from my way of working. I know a lot of my mates have got it and they enjoy using it. But for me, it was just too small to get on with, really. And for that sort of price now, I think there's going to be a lot of people who really wanted this that weren't able to get it because it wasn't available that are going to jump on this. But when you look at some of the things that have just come out in NAMM recently, as you know, and the price points on some of these things and what you can get for that same price for $1,000 or under, you can get yourself a couple of really nice monophonic synths that have just been announced by, whether it's Behringer or whatever. You could get yourself a small little modular rig. Okay, it wouldn't have the same functionality as that OP1, but do you want, again, I'm not big on one of these devices that does everything in one, particularly when it's like that big and it's got everything in it. I'm quite into dedicated
devices, right? Yeah,
basically, yeah.
I can understand.
Just my 2 pence.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. I know, Mark, I mean, they're very desirable objects. I mean, I did an interview with Teenage Engineering at NAMM, and they were really, really nice people. I came away thinking, God, I wouldn't mind working for that company if I ever worked for anybody. It just sort of, they felt like a nice bunch of people, which is why this seems a little bit kind of at odds with their whole vibe. I mean, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's all pretentious or whatever, but they're not. They were really nice, seemed like really nice people. So it just seems like a strange move, but I know. Have you ever had your hands on one?
The only one I've seen is Gaz's one, actually.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievably cool what it does. And his infectious enthusiasm for things. He showed it to me, and I was just like, that thing is really awesome. I think it's set to become a future classic, personally, if at this rate. Well,
it's been going for 10 years already. It's nearly 10 years old.
It doesn't matter what the price point is now, does it?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
what
true.
would you do? Would you rather buy a second-hand one off eBay for £1,100, or would you rather buy a new one? I think it's okay to want to buy a new one, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I think the problem is they said don't pay this much for one, we're bringing it back, and then charge this much for one, which is that's the thing that's the.
Well, maybe they meant don't pay this much for a second-hand one when you can have a new one for the same price.
Yeah, maybe.
I think the bottom line of it was either the.
But if you asked me the question, would I?
Yes,
would I spend £1,100 on one? I probably wouldn't.
No,
not yet.
Oh, it's via the chat room. Let me see. I see.
Sorry,
Synth Jam
mate.
says,
Must be
"Hey Nick, I have an
exploding on the chat
ELZ1 right here. It's going to be 499, which was the sort of OP1 like thing, but not quite as beautiful, but similar sort of layout and whatnot. But yeah, so but you can get them. They're back in stock now and will be for the foreseeable future. I seem to remember they were made out of CNC'd magnesium. The actual, it was like unibody. It's really quite high, and all the knobs and stuff. So I mean, maybe they ran down all their stock of what they could build, and buying that stuff again, it's gone up enormous amount. But it seems a shame if that's the case. But I guess they wouldn't compromise on the parts.
I think that's it. They've basically said, look, we could kill this and get rid of it completely, or you can have it, but it's just going to be a higher price. And I get that. And if people are willing to pay that, then wicked, because it is a popular product, and there's a lot of people who are happy with it out there. So nice one that they're offering it, and those hardcore fans.
I can't imagine they're making that much money.
I don't
mean.
know.
Are they really cleaning up and selling so many that people should be all angry and like, these guys are ripping everyone off and making tons of money? Are they really? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, seems like they spend an awful lot of time in R&D.
Yeah, I could tell you that from the interview I did with them, they have 40 people working for them, and they just hired quite a big cheese from IKEA. So they poached one of the big IKEA product manager people to come and work with them, and who I also spoke to. So yeah, they're on a roll, and they do a lot of other things besides. But yeah, it doesn't look good, I suppose, is the thing. It's the perception issue.
That's true. Absolutely. True.
Okay, well, let's see, what else have we got? This. There's absolutely no information other than, isn't it cool? This is a piece this is basically a piece called Thor, THAW, not the god, and it's by a chap called Sean Costello, who works for Valhalla. And apparently, as you know, Valhalla Reverb the shimmer is an amazing and beautiful thing. And this sounds like this is delay, and I think it's a shimmer delay, which also sounds particularly beautiful. But we know it's coming, but we have no information other than this is what it sounds like when put to picture. But it's funny, a lot of the comments in this are sort of saying, maybe I'm over the whole shimmer thing. Is shimmer kind of an overdone thing? Sometimes it's just it just fits the bill beautifully, and if you're not doing short percussive things, it can really open out and make you feel all lovely and warm inside. And it's almost a genre, I think, shimmer. It's like a subgenre of what? Ambient. I don't know. Maybe there even is an ambient shimmer genre. But yeah, beautiful imagery. I think there's some stock footage you got from somewhere as well. But I suppose the question is, how does one feel about the shimmer kind of thing? Because I mean, I know for those of us who are perhaps not so musically gifted, it fills a lot of room. With only a few notes are going in, you can end up with a beautiful thing, and it's quite
very
emotive.
Glastonbury.
It's very Glastonbury. Yeah, I never used to be. It used to be more
as in Glastonbury Town as opposed to Glastonbury Festival. As in, imagine yourself walking into a beautiful garden.
It's relaxation tape stuff, isn't it?
Visualize yourself with pockets full of money and all that. I mean, it reminds me of all that stuff on the high street. So I mean, I like the sound of it, though, personally, as well. So maybe I've been hooked. Maybe that's why I live here.
Maybe so, yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I say, it's like Valhalla DSP are the company, and they make a lot of other stuff as well, but it's kind of cool. I know, Jamie, how you feel about textural stuff. I mean, I know you like to mess and munge around with sound. Shimmering, but you often your stuff is more is less. What am I looking for the word? It's less sort of floaty than that, generally speaking.
Thank you.
More precise.
Is that a compliment? I feel it must be.
I try to avoid the floaters, but it's basically. I think it was invented by Eno, wasn't it? The old AMS. It was the AMS, which is I should try to create it in the AMS because that's where it came from. I think.
Eno used something else.
Oh, did it?
Eno used an SDR 1000 Ibanez reverb, and it has a hold button on the back of it. So you put something into it, it goes into the reverb, and you put your foot on the hold pedal, and it just holds it. So it's sort of like a hold reverb, SDR 1000.
But that's not shimmer, that's just a frozen reverb. But the actual feedback loop with the pitch change, that's the thing. I mean, I did a patch.
Oh, like Angelic Choir.
Yeah, I know. I made a patch using the Behringer XR18 where I created feedback loops and fed chorus and a harmonizer back into a reverb, and you can create this sort of shimmer stuff. So yeah, you may well be right.
It's the pitch and the verb, and it's like some feedback loops of that.
Yeah,
which makes me think one possibly ought to create kind of custom versions of effects chains to create your own shimmer. If you're a real shimmer connoisseur, you should probably try to work out how to make your own. Would be my advice to the shimmerers. And hey man, a little shimmer here and there when you're looking for a proper ethereal like waft.
That's the show title right there, Shimmer Connoisseur. I think you've got it there, Jamie. Good work.
Yeah, all right, well, great.
I had to look at how to spell connoisseur there for a minute, but yeah, I got it in the end. Google helped. Yeah, I suppose so. But I mean, in terms of that, I mean, it's very easy to use these kind of washes of ambient sound, whether it be long reverbs or frozen stuff. And isn't granular a similar kind of technique, really? I mean, isn't that sort of? I don't know whether that stuff gets more.
It will give you the same kind of ethereal rush, but I think, like you said, I mean, pop up on an aux, and then off you go. All you got to do is bathe in the shimmery waters.
Yeah,
and, which is a little bit of a quick fix sometimes. But hey, it was a thing when the Eventides first came out. Show my age, whatever. But you'd go into the fancy studios and go, "Oh man, show us the Eventide, man." You know what I mean? Because it was so crazy that it could do essentially these kind of things just off an aux. And I don't know, it's amazing to have that much power with just one fader, essentially.
Yeah, well, that's true.
It's how you use the shimmer.
It is how you use the shimmer. I don't know. I mean, modular and shimmer tend to go together, kind of, peanut butter shimmer and jelly or whatever.
Yeah, I was actually tempted to just stick this big sky, which has got shimmer on it, on an aux on my vocal. Then, if I had the choice. I'd basically do this show every single time with my voice going through some shimmer reverb, basically, if I was allowed.
Well, you could just do, I suppose the thing is you could just sort of go, and that would be enough for 10, 15 seconds, couldn't it? So you could use...
That's what that video was made from.
I might start a YouTube channel, which is just saying one word and then go through a shimmer for an hour or something. Actually, I do some videos which are called the Ambient Hour, which is a 1 hour long piece of ambient music that is just made up on the spot, which is a lot of shimmer and a lot of reverbs and that kind of stuff, where I'm sort of jamming through the modular and time stretch stuff and granular stuff. And I use that all the time. I use it a lot when I'm writing stuff for TV. Sorry, Jamie?
If you shimmer a shimmer, what happens?
Oh, mate, you go in black hole. You don't come out the other side. You're basking in the water. It's
logarithmic shimmer. Yeah.
This does it pretty well as well. The Eventide pitch factor pedal has got something like called crystals, which you've also got on the Sound Toys crystallizer kind of plugin, which does kind of pitched delays and that kind of stuff, and you can get that sort of shimmer going on with that. I love it though. I've got a couple of effects units here called the Dervish. On this is echoes and reverbs, and it's also got shimmer into it. You can program your own effects into there. So if you're interested in making your own shimmers and you're into doing a little bit of coding, you can download a bit of software, program your own shimmer, stick it into that, and away you go. I love it. I use it basically to put all my polyphony stuff through. So my chord generation stuff goes through that Dervish as a stereo input and output, and it just gives you this lush pad, side chain in that, and it just
so you get the rhythm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're cutting it rhythmic. I would like to point out there what I have a practical use for shimmer. I used it yesterday. I'm doing the sound edits for my daughter's dance school ballet show, and they come to me with a load of CDs with kind of various Strauss whatever pieces that the kids are going to dance to with these really impossible edits, and sometimes the edits are so impossible you have to kind of stop it and then start, have a gap and have, the next bit of music coming in a couple of seconds later that's on the beat. And I did actually use the shimmer to fill the gap, and it worked really well. And it was, so it did have a purpose outside of the usual ambient. That was purely mechanical, and it created enough harmonic space to make it sound like it was supposed to be like that. But so
you need to take that, like, or you record like the dude on the train, well, the voice recording of Mind the Gap, and then shimmer that, and just always that'd be a new experience in the tube.
That would be terrifying. The gap that would imply the gap is more of a chasm or a canyon, something that you really do need to mine because it's so big and so deep
exactly. And
that you would never.
Shimmer always seems to imply the upward motion, but don't forget, shimmer can go down. And maybe like the shimmer connoisseurs have a name for that. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
You know what I mean? You want to hope that there's some terms in the shimmer universe for all of these rapid and slow evolving.
I'm sure there'd be a shimmer specialist somewhere.
When you do shimmer, it's octaves, isn't it? So is it doing that barber pole thing where it's constantly rising and then comes back into itself?
I think the really good ones don't do it infinitely. They just do a couple, or you have a blend of octaves, so it doesn't, because it would just go so high that it, and I think there wasn't there the Synaptic did a frozen or a shimmery reverb that allows you to play while they're still going. It allows you to melodically shift the tail so that it doesn't get too smudgy as well. That was
adaptive. It was like an adaptive.
That sounds like a good idea.
That's a good
I mean, that's what happened.
Very pricey, those plugins.
Yeah.
They're good.
The Big Sky gives you fifths and octaves, and you can go up and down in fifths, thirds, octaves, 2 octaves, and then down as well. So
plenty of.
You've got MIDI on that as well, so you can transpose all of that. But it's got 2 engines within it, so you've got a shimmer going into a second shimmer, so you can have one going down, you could have one then on a fifth, you can shimmer your shimmer all day long. Happy days.
Yeah, well, that's all good stuff.
Excellent.
Anyway, Valhalla DSP, it's supposed to be coming quite soon. It's going to be Delay. I guess it would be called we don't even know what it's going to be called. Shimmer Delay, perhaps. I mean, perhaps it won't be. We're not entirely sure. Anyway, let's take a quick break and have a little word from our friends at Isotope, and then we can do the competition and whatnot.
RX continues to be the industry standard and leader in audio repair for music and post-production. And with RX-7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more. Also new in RX-7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker, and introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX-7, a new frontier in audio repair.
And don't forget, you can download a demo of Isotope, which will, if you just go to isotope.com and look out for RX-7, you can get hold of all of that good stuff. But if you wanted to enter a competition, we also will just get the previous winner out the way. Last time we asked for Mix Assistant and RX-7, and we have somebody called, now I'm going to have really struggle with pronouncing this. Blas Frlic, I guess he may be from Slovenia, so I'm sorry if but your handle is at Blaz, B-L-A-Z, F-R-L-I-C, Frlic maybe, I'm not sure. But if you want to get in touch, Blaz or Blaze or, yeah, as I say, terrible pronunciation, my Slovenian's not too hot. You have won a copy of RX-7, so just get in touch. But if you want to enter for this week's competition, we're looking for the hashtag MagicDSP, because that's what it is. In fact, I just published the Meet the Makers with Mark Ethier, and he's a really interesting chap, who's the CEO and founder of Isotope, if you want to check that out. But we're looking for the hashtag MagicDSP and the hashtag RX7 on Twitter to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's the hashtag MagicDSP, the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. Yes, indeed. So what do we have next? Oh, yeah, this looks kind of cool. Anyone get the chance to see this? This was the... it's a new Kickstarter.
I'm going to take your tambourine and your drink to stage. Okay. All right, let's go to stage. I started
Alison
working
Tavel,
for Grace Potter in 2012, and that's
who's
really
the father
when the
of
resonator started to
the daughter
become
of Don
relevant to
Tavel.
me.
She
who
did mention
basically-
that her father had invented the synthesizer.
I knew that he had invented some kind of synthesizer, but I didn't know much beyond that.
I got into electronic music when it started pretty much in the 60s, and then I ended up inventing and holding 7 patents on the precursor to MIDI.
Allie said, the second we get off tour, I'm going to get the resonator. That was the beginning of the unraveling.
So he invented a resonator, which is actually a pitch tracking. It's very
I was 10
powerful
weeks
stuff
old
for the
when
time.
my dad died in a car accident.
Unfortunately,
so
passed away.
I never got a chance to know him, and I never felt connected to him. The only memories I have of my dad are other people's memories.
Those that knew him said, oh, I don't think he ever would hurt himself. And I wasn't so sure.
I got the resonator from my grandma's attic, and I found the man who originally built it for my dad back in the 70s.
You want to try to make it work?
He agreed to help me bring it back to life. I'm going to reach out to musicians who are inspired by this technology. This is the best way I know how to pay tribute to my dad and to continue his legacy. I think this is what my dad...
Right, so basically this is a Kickstarter project. The resonator was a really quite a powerful and unusual thing. It took pitch tracking and it applied resynthesis techniques and resonating techniques to the incoming. So you could play instruments into it. And this is like the 70s, late 70s. So it's kind of really quite forefront technology, but sadly passed away. And his daughter is trying to make a documentary to kind of just pay tribute to him, and she's got a Kickstarter on the go. In fact, has raised more than half the cash in under 5 days. So more than half in and 33 days to go. So it looks like we might get to see it. But it's an interesting piece of technology, and it's like one of those. It's obviously a very sad story because she never really knew her dad. She was under 1 year old when he passed away. But how cool is that to have someone who was. To have something like that to remember him by and kind of build this whole thing on. I don't know. I know, Jamie, you're a big sort of advocate of this sort of lesser known technology. That is this something that you already know about? I mean, have you heard of this thing? It's got a mythical status.
Yeah, they actually reached out to me about this a long time ago, and I was just trying to find the emails. I'd wanted to prepare for this, but we were rushing around this morning, so I couldn't dig out the emails. But yeah, about, I want to say a couple of years ago, they reached out about this, and I'm glad something has moved along. Yeah, I mean, great. These kind of bits of technology are just, as you say, I'd love to hear this thing in action. I mean, it's sort of the family in a way, to me, looks-wise at least.
We're losing you a little bit there, Jamie. I don't know whether you're Dropbox.
Are you back?
Well, you're back. Yep, you're back. You're a little pixel.
Yeah,
it's an interesting device, though, isn't it? It's a very
good quality.
Yeah.
I'd love to try it. I mean, anything that tracks pitch that well. I mean, that's it's always hard to do. I mean, I use the MS-20. Mess around with like things that don't use MIDI essentially, because MIDI's a bloody nightmare, obviously, with that kind of stuff. But anything that can track properly is just like, wow, it's impressive.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just trying to look
cool.
if we've got a decent picture of the resonator somewhere. I think there's not. There's lots of rewards and stuff in it. I mean, it's kind of classic synth nerd stuff, but it's very hard to see. It's very hard to see the exact controls on it. I don't know. I mean, Mark, sorry.
Oh, no, that wasn't me.
Okay. I beg your pardon. Mark, I'm guessing, again, this is, this sort of unusual and unique technology. I don't know if they're ever going to make it again or whether it's even viable, but it's, or who holds the patents, because these things do have a habit of shifting around and being sold on and whatnot. But it looks kind of cool, right?
It depends who he was making it for, doesn't it? If he was making it for himself or for his own company, then I guess she would hold the patent, wouldn't she?
Maybe so.
It looks. I love stuff like this. Any pedals that I can plug my guitar into that don't have to rely on a MIDI pickup always interest me, and anything that can change the guitar signal from sounding like a guitar into actually sounding believably like square wave, triangle, and filters, and being able to get some kind of synth output from a guitar without having to do MIDI always interests me. So it's I'd like to plug my guitar into one and try one. I've never seen one.
Here we go. I've got a bigger picture of it here. There we go. There's a bigger picture.
Yeah,
so it looks like it's got VCOs, and it's also got timbral image modulator. Gosh, let's see. I could get. I know.
Yeah, I've actually found the email chain from 2015, and it came with a pedal board called the Hexanator.
Cool.
A little bit
Great
like
name.
kind of a neutron biphase kind of thing.
That implies that it has 6 inputs, though, doesn't it? The Hexanator, because all the MIDI guitar stuff is always hex on the 6 strings, right?
Maybe, yeah.
So,
Right.
so did it need a special? Because
Yeah,
she's
it's a
playing a
qualified
Roland G700 guitar, isn't she?
Well, I'm looking at
Right.
the front, the panel here. There's basically inputs for a sensitivity for wind, all, or guitar, tuning, vary pad. It's hard to know exactly what all of that's. Oh, it looks like there's some sort of modulation there. It looks even like pulse width. There is some pulse width there, which I'm obviously very pleased about. That's kind of cool. It does look. I mean, I imagine these are rare as. There must be very few of them ever made. But it was looking like the guy they built it with. She went to see. It was one of the guys behind the Mutron, which was obviously a big. Sonic shaper of the time, a lot of the Stevie Wonder sounds and that kind of fuzz envelope follower.
I think he took it apart with her and basically rebuilt it to get it back and functioning. I think they got 5 functioning ones that they had in the end. And yeah, he was part of this, and I think he's been really instrumental in getting the original back working, which is really cool. And going back to what Jamie was saying about the tracking on this, it's got to be, for these sort of things to work really well. And I'm totally with Mark on this, because I've tried MIDI guitars and things like that before, and they can be right pain. I think they built their own bespoke chip just for the pitch tracking for this particular thing as
He
well.
invented the algorithm, I believe. He had a specific algorithm that he put in there.
The DFA microchip processor. One of 6 patented pieces.
Wow,
exactly.
I found the email chain from 2015, so they've been going on this one for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've got a mate from Allerton Table. Crazy.
It's a great little story, really, isn't it? I mean, something like this, and I'm totally behind this. I hope they hit the Kickstarter on this. I think as they go up, I think there's something about a dad also was writing a musical of some sort, and that's if you get to the higher sort of pledges on the Kickstarter, she's going to employ someone basically to recompose this using the resynthesizer and bring that to life as well. Yeah, I hope she hits this. It looks really cool.
And
she's
you
a
could
cool
get,
kid, isn't she? I mean,
you could get spend a day in Los Angeles recording with the original Resonator. Yeah, there's a bunch of
Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's good. It's nicely done. I wish her all the best. In fact, she was over here talking to Peter Gabriel, I think last year, and Dickie Chappell, Peter's guy, said, she wants to come over and see us, and we just couldn't make it work because she was going somewhere and I had to be somewhere else, and we just couldn't, because she was going to come into the studio and we were going to get to see it, but it just didn't happen. For logistically, it was all a bit last minute and we couldn't make it work out, which is a real shame because I would love to have seen that. But you can kickstart it now. It's Resonator, so Resynator. If you look for that, you'll find it, and you can kickstart. You can do the Kickstarter thing.
Wow.
Right, so this was another thing that I thought was kind of interesting. This was I was looking at it was quite a slow news week, I have to be honest, because it's post NAMM. People are sort of waiting for, I think they're waiting for either Synthplex and then Super Booth, which is coming up. And this is Pro Sound News Europe. Phil Ward, who's a great journalist, top chap, he wrote an article about, because everybody's using in-ear monitoring, pretty much exclusively, and it's getting to the point, but it's creating these kind of weird sort of specific sets of situations where you've got all this energy happening on stage but very little noise, particularly if people are using electronic triggers and whatnot. And it started to turn, I mean, while it's great and lots of people swear by it, it creates this sort of almost a sense of isolation to a degree, because everybody becomes fixated on their own in-ear mix, because it can get so good that you can almost have like the vibe, the mix of the track that you want that vibes you up, but it's very insular. And the idea of having some actual air moving on the stage is sort of being lost, and it kind of his argument is that, you know, perhaps it loses some of the vibe, and, you know, one of those things why in-ear monitoring is working is because we don't have to take so much stuff, makes it easier for the sound guy, means you don't have to carry so much equipment, which means it's cheaper to tour. So all of these financial considerations, but ultimately, you know, it's nice to have a bit of I'll come to you first, Jay, because you perform periodically and on various stages, you know, of differing sizes and whatnot. I mean, presumably you've experienced both sides of this equation. What is it that how do you feel about it?
What I always remember touring. I opened for Elton John for a whole European tour, and I was always like, I noticed that he just was old school wedges.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And after all this time, I kind of thought, well, Elton knows something, doesn't he? You know, about like keeping the vibe alive, like literally, like after all this time, it's still going out and rocking. So I know it is tricky. It's definitely, you sort of get used to the in-ears, but I think that's the expression. You know, you just get used to it. It's not, and I think for certain situations, it's absolutely critical. Those times when we were playing with Elton, and there would be like, you know, Birmingham NEC and all these bloody massive venues. If you were going wedges, you really have to stand right in front of the wedge, because if you leave the wedge's little radiant zone, you're in a world of reverb hell, basically, and you can't time, you can't pitch, you can't do a damn thing. As a singer, for example, it's critical. Like on a big stage, you love the in-ears. It's pretty hard to, because otherwise you've really got to be standing right in front of the wedge, so you can't move around. So, you know, if you like to run about a bit with a wireless, and that's kind of a laugh, you need in-ears. But at the same time, it's definitely a bit of a buzzkill, I agree. And it's sort of like but at the same time, I used to find, well, you can kill your ears either way. The in-ears, you can really creep up the volume and go, yeah! And then you realise you're on like 9 on the pack, and it's just like, if you actually listen to that in the cold, if you put it on first thing in the morning, you'd just be like afraid. But then same thing goes for the wedges. People have them like at brutal levels. Like some DJs have like 2 crazy like wedges at ear height either side of the thing, and they're just pumping as loud as possible. I worry about people's ears, man. You know, it's like, it's not cool. So whatever looks after your ears.
That's a good point. That's a good point. There were some really interesting strategies they had in this as well, which if I could just jump in there. You just have in-ears and subs. So the subs they move the air around the stage, so you feel the bass. And the other thing is what they were doing is they have intercommunication between the bands. So every band member has a mic, and there's a proximity sensor, so you can reach up to it and just sort of say, "Oh, let's do that again," or you know, hit that snare, or whatever it may be that you want to shout out to your band members. So but there are 2 routes of communication. You have one which is proximity, which talks to everybody, and one with a foot switch which just talks to the monitor engineer saying, I need something to change here, and creating. I mean, it seems to be massively complex. It's complex, but it's an interesting kind of idea that having to replace all that communication. I know, Mark. I mean, you've toured. You know, I guess, from a technical point of view, in-ears must be a lot easier because it's a fixed system that you know is going to work pretty much every night, right?
Yes. I'm just going to talk about the article. I'll answer differently to what the question you've asked me. I think this article mentions a guy called John Burton, but I think that's actually Don Burton, because Donnie Burton was our stage manager with Duran Duran in 1993 when the Cranberries supported. And Duran had at that point that they weren't going to have any monitors on stage at all, because they had a set designed by a guy called Stefanos Lazar. Designer, and there's just nowhere to put monitors. So we were rehearsing in a place in Santa Monica, and there was nothing on stage in terms of foldback at all. Everyone had in-ears. All you could hear was someone padding on the drums, Warren's high-heel boots running up and down this ramp, and kind of a little bit of kind of quiet strings from the guitar, and then Simon hollering over the top of it, and it sounded weird as hell. And it didn't last long, I have to say. I think we toured like that for about 3 months, and everybody hated it, and the wedges eventually came back, and everybody wanted like some kind of proper foldback as well as the ear.
Oh,
yeah.
But actually having the wedges on the stage was, and I think it is the vibration on the stage that is the most important thing, because otherwise you've got you might just as well be listening to a Walkman. And I think the compression that happens in the in-ear systems actually messes with the dynamics of the band. And what Donnie says in that article is correct. It's that like the band loses ability to sense the dynamics of the other players, and then the whole thing flattens out and starts to sound a bit kind of, I don't know, less lively, let's say.
That's an interesting
Look,
thing.
That was my experience.
Yeah, I mean, a related phenomenon that happens in the studio, and it's something I did. I just produced a new album for Alan Stone, which will be coming out this year. And one of the things that we ended up doing is a real old Nashville technique. You don't use headphones. We just track the whole thing with no headphones. You just pump the vocal through a little PA in the room, and you just track it with, you don't care.
I was going to say that about...
It's amazing what we do, because no one's in headphones. Everyone's actually listening to the same thing. Sorry, mate.
I was going to say that about Elton as well, because when my brother did an Elton John remix, they sent us the master tape, and I had that up in Brit Row, and I listened to the master vocal, and I was like, hang on a minute, something's really wrong here. This can't be the lead vocal. So I went back to the record company and the original engineer and said, can you send me the proper lead vocal? Because this vocal's got piano and everything all over it. And they went, no, that's the vocal. So as far as I could tell, he recorded the lead vocal on, and I can't remember the name of the song, with all the foldback on in the room and without headphones on to get the dynamic again, I guess.
That's good. I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. Sorry, Matt, you haven't come in on this. I mean, I guess in-ear monitoring and modular stuff is probably not something you'd want so much because of you want to feel the air move, right?
It depends. Yeah, I guess like Jamie was saying, I've played before where you've got wedges either side of your head, which is just essentially two massive speakers pumping really loud. I'm not into that at all. I tend to use ears definitely for this, and I have it nice and quiet, and that's just so I know what's going on, because I think one of the biggest problems with wedges is the quality of them. And I was touring a lot last year, one half of a group called Knightstown, and a lot of the venues we played, the wedges were just really poor and battered, and had beer spilled over them over about 20 years, and they were dinted, and tweeters didn't work, and this, that, and the other. So you're trying to monitor on its really poor quality monitoring systems, and that makes it really tough. And that's when you start overcompensating with volume and things like that. So we went to in-ears, which just allowed us to have things nice and quiet. As long you've just got to be careful not to pump it too much. And then we would use the wedges to create bass movement on the stage. So you've got that relationship with what's going on externally, because it really can cut you off when you've got those in-ears going on. So it's just trying to find the best of both worlds, really, and looking after your hearing. And the bottom line is, as long as you can give that performance to the crowd, that's the important thing. And pitching vocals and things like that obviously is super duper important. You've got to be able to hear that crystal clear at all times.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Also the in-ears, no, that's right. No, quite right.
It's interesting what you were saying about having the vocals and that spill that you get. It's actually an art that I think is very much lost. And when I was, I was doing remixing in the past, and we'd get various tracks in, and it would always be very nicely isolated. Then once we got asked to remix, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Get Down Tonight, and they sent us the multi-track for that. I've told this story before, and literally, it's sort of everything is part of everything. So there's very little spill, but you just think, well, how do you get all that top end on a vocal? Because if you've got half of the other stuff coming down it as well, you're also EQing that. So that would affect how you would EQ those instruments with and the stereo. I just don't. I mean, it's an art form. I mean, imagine, because I certainly wouldn't know how to do it.
we do the vocals sometimes in the control room through the main speakers, handheld microphone, so that the singer can just get into it, and then flip the phase on that vocal recording.
Yay.
Speakers and
We've got
school.
RX now anyway. We can fix it all with RX, can't
Well,
we?
that's true. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, use
Bleed is
RX.
a beautiful thing. You don't need to remove it. Like, I swear, man, the amount of times I've had like a fancy U47 or whatever, someone wants the headphones so bloody loud. By the time you're listening to the bleed on the U47, it's comparable to the bleed on an SM7 with the speakers on.
Yeah,
Because
right.
you actually got such a sensitive
harder
body
to
science
deal with.
tool,
Yeah.
like listening like crazy, and it's a disgusting sound. The sound of the limited frequency of a spill out the can, out the back of a headphone. I'd rather hear full frequency out of a speaker.
But the thing
So,
is
I mean,
that
I don't know.
the phase thing only works if you're using all the other stuff. If you just want the vocal, you can't flip the phase on the vocal because all the stuff that's going down it is not in the mix anymore because you might have remixed it completely. So it makes. I mean,
Plus, you need to have the speakers in mono, don't you, for that trick? Because if you're getting delay from left and right speakers, then
that's
you're
probably very true.
catching a weird comb filter thing or something.
Yeah,
I've done
right.
it. It does work.
Yeah.
It does work.
I did it with backing vocals. We had about 20 people in the room, and then we had to record the track back through the room. So the trick is you record the vocalist singing into the mic, and then you just get everybody to stand there, and then you play the track back into the room, and then you reverse the phase of the track in the room against the recorded vocal with the track in the room, and then that takes the track in the room out. If you move all the people, it completely messes it up. So if you've got
That's amazing.
That's an interesting idea. So you record a phase reverse track so that you can use that in the mix later.
Yeah, and then just everybody has to stand still and be quiet.
Oh wow!
Well, you could create amazing phasing effects just by slightly changing what's going on in the room and use it deliberately as an effect, and then shimmer it.
I'm liking the amazing phasing. Amazing phasing. That's got a nice bit of alliteration to it as well.
Oh man, it's its quality. It's so many singers just like to have the speakers on, right?
Yeah, well, I think it
from the
makes a big
town.
difference.
Oh,
It does.
no.
It makes a really big difference, and I think it's probably for everybody. And I always used to feel really sorry for when back when you'd be a new band going into the studio, and the way that it was done back then was you build the click track, the drummer would play the drums, and there'd be nothing for them to go off. I mean, you'd have that, and then they figured out that what you do is you have the band in the control room giving it some, so that the drummer's got something to go against. But if you've just got the drums in the room, there's nothing there for them to feed off, and it's incredibly revealing, and it's quite stressful for the
That's why
drummers.
they never did that in all of the great recordings, Motown and all that.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone played together. Job done. Remember that, guys?
Yeah,
because we're so
absolutely.
afraid of bleed, because the 80s taught us that bleed is bad, but it's a complete lie. And the thing, people need to embrace bleed and just love it, because we don't need to live in the 80s anymore. We should act in a world that is so isolated already with the internet. I think we should compel as much community as possible.
Open
Ditch
the
the headphones in the
doors.
studio, all play live, and just record the recordings. And then shimmer it, obviously.
Yeah,
Needless to
well,
say.
wise words. I think that's a fair enough thing to say, actually.
It always struck me as odd in the 80s that we used to spend all our time taking all the reverb off everything and trying to get everything as dry as possible, only to put this like completely synthetic, whatever it was at the time, Elise's microverb or something, I think it was, back on it to make it sound like it was in a natural space. Except listening back to any of those recordings I did then, they just sound awful. Like the reverbs are so unbelievably poor.
Yeah, well, they were, but then they were also all we could afford until we went into the
Great
studio.
British Spring. That was the
Listen,
one.
cocaine's a hell of a
drain
drug.
pipe.
Well, I think I think that feels like quite. I did. There were some other sort of topics, but to be honest, it feels like that's a good place to drop things off. Unless anybody was really excited about the other topic we were talking about. Sorry, Matt.
I was about the SoundCloud thing, but we can leave that.
SoundCloud. Well, let's do that. The SoundCloud and SoundMarker. This is news. We'll just pop this in. There's news. SoundCloud in their continuing kind of attempt to sort of be the destination for audio stuff, because at the moment, everybody's just uploading stuff to YouTube, and play music like that. But SoundCloud there needs to be a platform really where music makers can get that level of distribution and sharing. And SoundCloud have added, let me see if I go to here. On the SoundCloud Premiere, you get... you can connect it to other resources. So upload it there and you get access to Amazon Music, Apple Music, Instagram, YouTube Music, and Spotify distribution. So you can do the whole thing in one place, which seems like quite a good idea. I mean, I sort of went off Spotify after there were just sort of things that we used to use it and it was great, but then it got really complicated. For a podcast, it's pointless because you pay sort of by the minute, and we record an hour a week, and it's just not affordable. It didn't make any sense. But Matt, you could speak up for this because you said you're excited.
I just thought it was really interesting. For £7.50 a month, you can basically upload as much as you want, and it will distribute this, so it becomes an aggregator basically, and it will put it on all of the main music channels, like Apple Music and Spotify and what have you. And that's just amazing. And I know Spotify recently, they did a beta where you could do the same thing, where you can just from your bedroom upload your music to Spotify and it's on there, and they're beta doing that. But for SoundCloud to take this step forward is really good, because up until now as well, you've never been paid for any money, any music that's played on or streamed on SoundCloud, which I know there's ways around. Ultimately, they're playing your music, and you should maybe be financially recompensed for that. But they're taking steps towards this now, and I think this is because SoundCloud were took over by another group, and I think or new management or something like that. And I think this is a really interesting direction of taking it. SoundCloud has also, for me, been one of those places where there's not many people that I know who are just the average listener will just go to SoundCloud to check out new music. SoundCloud is almost a platform for music producers to listen to other music producers' music. That's the way I've always seen it. And this might turn that around a little bit and become an environment for non-music producers to go to SoundCloud and start listening to music on there. But the fact that you can just get your stuff, you've got scheduled releases, you've got stats that you can access. You can replace tracks, you can turn tracks on and off as well from the aggregates. It's really good. So up until now, you've been using things like DistroKid, CD Baby, all those kind of aggregates to get your music out there. Well, I'm wondering what that means for them as well, because they used to be the middlemen, and now the middlemen are sort of out the way because you can just pump your music up there. It does also mean as well that all of these online streaming platforms are going to be absolutely full of everything from people who just listened to GarageBand and started learning how to use a few loops, and then
that's true. I mean, I suppose the problem is in the consumption point of view that we've got all these competing services. You might have a subscription to Apple Music, you might have a subscription to Amazon Music or Spotify. I mean, that's £40 a month, more or less, right, or £30 a month right away. If you add SoundCloud to that, I mean, who's going to be? You sort of almost want a single destination, don't you? Because I mean, SoundCloud, as you say, makes sense for the uploader, but not necessarily the consumer. Because if I had to pay to access the consumption of SoundCloud, then it's sort of like it's just yet another thing, another platform that I've then got to pay for, which it all starts to add up. It's kind of like cable TV, It's like I'd just rather just pay for my telly and decide what I want, rather than have to have that Netflix and Prime and blah 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 blah, all these different things, and it's just competing for meager resources. And most people, as we know, aren't really prepared to pay that much for music. And
how many views or listens do you think they have to have on Spotify to earn £7.50 then? So if I've got
a lot.
Do you think enough people could listen to my song in a month to pay my £7.50 back?
No. I mean, honestly, no.
I knew it.
No.
That's it, man.
I mean, that's a fair argument. That is
I'm sure Ed Sheeran's doing all right, actually.
Yeah, well, exactly. But that's what it happens. But the thing is, the reason that happens also is because of the way that it's divvied up. It's divvied up as a sort of, it's almost like the electoral college method of counting votes, where it's like, well, you're really big, so you get a bigger percentage. It's not actually all, as far as I understand, it's not completely down to plays. It's like, Beyonce and Ed Sheeran and a few others will get big slices of it based on sampling statistics. I don't think it's purely.
They've got enough money.
Well, yeah, that's true. I don't know, Jamie, you're on Walkabout. We're having a tour. I like it.
Walkabout, yeah. Having a little tour, yeah. You want to see, you can't really see. It's beautiful, actually.
It's lovely, yeah.
These adobe houses are really the way. We'd love to live in one, but you can't do it in Nashville. Really, it rains too much.
Oh God, it would just wash away. Waterproofing adobe.
You can't really do much, but it's glaring. But yeah, we're about to drive 6 hours to Sedona, Arizona.
Wow.
But yeah, it's been great to see you lot again.
Well, I'm glad you could make it. Always
thanks. I mean, I do. This idea of making back any money on streaming is definitely something that I could. I mean, the majority of what I'm trying to do these days is co-write, and much as I love doing it, it's hard. It's hard to make money with the streaming stuff. I really do hope it turns a corner, and you can make a living from it. That would be
fair,
a happy place.
Musicians really ought to get paid for writing music, oughtn't they? I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, big companies coming along and going, oh, we'll just have a big cut of that. Someone else will have a big cut of that. Someone else, and the musicians generally end up with zero. So you go, here's your royalty statement. You earned £22,000, and we took 11,000, and they took 9,000, and they took 3,000, and you owe us £4.37. It's like, hey, how did that happen?
Yeah. Let's not get started on that. That's difficult.
I know, exactly. It's a shimmer.
How do we fix it?
I think the way is you see the streaming as a way to engage with an audience, build an audience over time. Once you've got that audience, you take it away from streaming. Once you've got an audience that you can then take to your own place, your own website, your own Patreon, your own gateway, you can then start generating income that way. So to begin with, you've just got to play the game. You've got to build that audience first. And the only way to build the audience is to use the fast tools that can get you out there. So I see it as a gateway.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Okay, well, I think I think it's time we wrapped up. But Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. I hope your drive is picturesque and uneventful.
Thank you. Yeah, see you again. Hopefully, maybe in another wooden location.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, James. Don't forget to check out Jamie's podcasts on Jamie Liddell Music. Right
Have
there.
fun with that shimmer.
Lots of good stuff there. And also, Mr. Mark Tinley, thanks for joining us too. Find out about what Mark's up at sonusmagus.com. I hope you feel better soon and you can get back in the shop and do what you love doing.
Yeah. You're very welcome. Always a pleasure. And I will... I'll probably see you in about 6 months next time I'm dying, maybe. Who knows?
Hopefully before then, I'm sure. Anyway, thank you very much.
Maybe we could do a special in the new shop. Maybe I should actually have an opening ceremony after 2.5 years. Or whatever.
Maybe so.
An opening
why not?
party.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, nice one. Thank
then.
you, Mark. And
I'll
also,
see you there.
Mr. Matthew Hodson, thank you for joining us too. You streaming much live on YouTube? You doing them? Anybody can check you out on YouTube, Matthew Hodson, right?
Yeah, just go to my stream. There's loads of streams up there at the minute. I haven't been doing any this year just because I've been in writing stage and planning lots of gigs. I was hoping to tell you about a load of gigs today over in both America and Berlin this year, but I can't. I'll have to do that next time because the ink's still drying. So I'll let you know about that.
Oh, brilliant. That sounds great. Anyway, folks, that's it for this time. We'll oh, look, he's gone outside and everything. We'll see you all next time. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care.
Let's try to get the whole...
Bye. Thank you very much, folks. Right, let me just find the right